Hey everyone, it's Brian of FaceTime Police. We're a band and we do a lot of variety content, which includes talking about video games. At the time of this recording, Shmup Slam 7 just finished. Shmup Slam is an annual event run by the Electric Underground that celebrates shmups, shoot 'em ups. They do in-person and online playthroughs of various games. So while I haven't made a definitive Why I Love Shmups video, I should let you know that I love shmups. One of my Game of the Year contenders for 2024 was Angel at Dusk. I played a Hatsune Miku fan-made shmup for our Miku Day video, and I've shown you small glimpses and very rough ideas using Game Maker of a game we'd like to eventually make someday. So anyway, I've been watching the Shmup Slam streams for years, and I thought this year I'm going to apply to do one of these online runs for their live stream, because why not? So I fill in the online form for the event and hope for the best. I applied to do a 1cc hard mode run for the game Azure Reflections, a Toho horizontal shmup. So it's not a new game, but it's my current obsession and I wanted to represent it at Shmup Slam 7. Months pass by and I don't hear from the organizers, so I assume, okay, maybe my run wasn't accepted, maybe they weren't fans of the game, maybe somebody else was already slotted to play that game at the event. Okay, no biggie. I just have to take the L and move on. Meanwhile, I'm still playing the game daily because I would have done so regardless of whether or not I was selected to play it live. Fast forward to the weekend of Shmup Slam 7. I'm popping in and out of the streams, watching various runs here and there, and then this happens.
Okay, stream, we're switching over to Azure Reflections. I know this game, because I'm doing the commentary. See you in a second.
A few moments later.
Hello, stream. So, our friend for Azure Reflections is not available. I mean, the hour's kind of crazy. I don't know if he I don't know. But that means up next is Ikaruga.
And here I was, looking at the screen, watching the stream, thinking, "Aw, man, that was the game that I applied for. That should have been me." So it's a late night on a weekend. I am obliviously editing a video because that's what I do. A few hours pass by, and then it just hits me. Wait a minute.
Our friend for Azure Reflections is not available.
Was that supposed to be me? So I look up the official schedule, scroll down, and there it is. Lo and behold, Brian FTP, that's me, scheduled to play Azure Reflections, and there's the 1cc hard mode run that I applied for. Oops. So I frantically go through my Discord account. By the way, I'm very Discord illiterate. I have it, I hardly ever use it though, and I really don't engage with it. So anyway, I messaged Mark, the event's organizer, and I let him know that I was Brian FTP, and I apologized profusely for missing the 1cc run for Azure Reflections. Anyway, call it a miscommunication, misunderstanding, whatever. Things are cool. There's no drama. It was just something that happened or didn't happen. Water under the bridge. So, since I was supposed to do this run live for Shmup Slam 7, I thought it would be cool to show you my 1cc run of Azure Reflections with commentary in this video. While I initially applied to do a 1cc hard mode run, I eventually improved enough to get a 1cc Lunatic Mode run pretty consistently. And this playthrough is actually the first time I got a complete break on all bosses. I'll explain that during the playthrough. So would the live stream have gone this well? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe nerves would have kicked in and I would have given the worst playthrough in the history of Shmup Slam? Who knows? That's part of the fun, right? Anyway, without further ado, here is what could have been. I've had to record and re-record this commentary in different segments, and I was losing my voice at times, so I apologize if it sounds like it's all over the place. Okay, let's just jump right into it, and I'll be doing this run on Lunatic. There's Aesthetic Mode, we can talk about that a little bit later. And I always go with Reimu and the homing bullets. I personally don't like the movement speed of the other characters, so I'll always go with Reimu. At the top right, you'll see that you can toggle between different path and original path. You're basically choosing which boss you're going to fight at the end of the stage. I'm going with the alternate boss. So this game's main mechanic and main gimmick is the Danmaku Rush. It's a chargeable rush attack, and any bullets that you absorb or even small enemies that you come into contact with, it'll be added towards the damage of your final attack. You're gonna see it in a second, right here. The Danmaku Rush is basically a finisher. It's the only move that can defeat a mid-boss, and during boss fights, you can get their HP down to 0, but you have to hit them with a Danmaku Rush or they will not transition to the next phase. So, I don't know if I've ever explained what I like about shmups. That's probably an entire video in itself. But, short answer, it's one of those genres that you can't just turn your brain off and play. You need to actively engage with it. Meiling is the first boss, and the joke with her title is that everybody else has such grandiose titles like the Scarlet Devil Manners Head Maid or whatever, and hers is Chinese Lady. Anyway, most of the first phases are kind of freebies. As long as you can find a good spot to absorb bullets with your Danmaku Rush, you should have enough to essentially skip the first phase. The funny thing about these bullet absorbing mechanics in games is the more bullets there are on screen, the more advantageous it is to you. So don't be afraid of these tougher difficulties. If you're a Touhou fan, there's something I wanted to point out about this next phase. If you'll notice, the music changed to Bad Apple, one of the most iconic and recognizable Touhou songs. I don't really have any tips and tricks for Meiling because she's a very standard boss. You just have to dodge. I will have more to say for the other bosses because some of them have more complex mechanics and tricky patterns. So don't worry, I'm not going to leave you hanging. Can we just take a second to appreciate these bullet patterns? Touhou is always known for their gorgeous, intricate bullet patterns, and this game is no exception. So that whole captured spell card, complete break, I'm not sure exactly how to explain those. All I know is that every other phase is this spell card phase. I'm not even sure if that's the exact name, but you're not allowed to use a spell card yourself, or die during that phase, or you will fail to capture that spell card. Again, I don't know if it's for points or what, but all I know is that you do not have to capture every spell card to get to the final level and the final boss. So one thing I love about Azure Reflections is that you can shoot to the left and the right. You can't just hug one side of the screen because you might get ambushed by enemies. And in a way it kind of reminds me of Death Smiles, so hell yeah. Okay, let's talk about Ascetic Mode. Basically, everything in Ascetic Mode can one-shot you, and bosses have 2 extra phases. At least that's how it works in Lunatic Mode, not quite sure about the others. But more importantly, in the non-Ascetic modes, which we are in right now, there is a stun mechanic. So, I don't think I've taken damage yet in this run, but if I get hit with a bullet, I don't lose a life automatically. I get stunned. So when you're in that stunned state, if you get hit again, that's when you lose a life. And while we're on the topic of dying in this game, there's actually an accessory that you can equip that lets you cheat death. And I think it resets every stage. So if you're still learning the game, it's definitely a useful tool. By the way, I don't have it equipped on this run, just so you know. In case you're wondering about the differences between the difficulties, I'm pretty sure the bosses have more HP at higher difficulty levels because they take much longer to defeat. And obviously, the bullet patterns are more complex at higher difficulty levels. For the Danmaku rushes, you'll see me circle around the boss to grab a bunch of extra bullets before ramming into her. That's actually a very effective tactic for most patterns and most bosses. But if you wanted to play it safer, there's nothing wrong with dashing directly straight towards the boss. In this next phase, there is a mechanic that I haven't mentioned yet. I think it's called a barrier, but I call it a burst. It's this thing right here. You expend power to do a burst, and it eliminates any bullets within a small radius. Now here's where I use my first bomb, or spell card. This game is actually very generous with bombs and extends, so don't be afraid to use them. Look at those glowing red oval-shaped bullets. See, if I'm staying in the same spot, I'll only absorb a couple of them, but if I charge towards the boss as they were spawning out, I will catch them all, absorb them all. For this phase, the white bullets are going to trap you in. You have to dodge the yellow bullets, and then once you have a Danmaku rush ready, kind of swerve to the side that has more bullets first before hitting the boss, and that should be enough to eliminate her. Fun fact, the loading screen will always show you the boss of the stage that you're coming into. I don't know where else to talk about this, so let's do it here. I love this game's bullet visibility. Not only are the bullets thick and chunky and glowing and colorful, but this game also has a dynamic background that darkens based on, I think it's the number of bullets. Just look at this mid-boss. See how the background darkened? And it was just so much easier to see the bullets. I love that. Thumbs up. For boss fights, the background actually darkens at the beginning of the encounter, and it'll stay dimmed throughout the entirety of the fight. I don't have many gripes about this game, but if I had to have one, it's the lack of themed enemies. So it works here because there are these are book enemies and you're in a library stage, but there's not many other instances of that in this game. And also, you'll see the book in every other stage after this, so it's not unique to this level. A game that did themed enemies well is a Hazelnut Hex. It really helps with the immersion. You know, I have to wonder whether or not the developers intended for the Danmaku rush to be this strong, because the final two bosses have phases in which they stop spawning bullets altogether once you start charging your Danmaku rush. This is a really creative phase. There are these bullets that spawn around you, and they restrict your movement. You definitely can't make any huge movements or you'll run into the bullets. So you're going to do a lot of micro movements to get around and dodge the other projectiles. If things get too dicey, you could always use a burst to kind of reset and gather yourself. I'm not exactly sure what's going on in this phase, but all I know is that the bullets are moving slow enough and there's enough space in between them that I can just dodge. Like, I have no strategy for this, just dodge. This is one of my favorite phases. In Lunatic Mode, she'll switch sides. And I don't know what it is about this combination of patterns, but it just feels so good to dodge. It's not even hard, it's just it feels good to move around the screen this much. By the way, I'm going to save my Danmaku Rush for the very end, because in my experience, if you interrupt this pattern, it can get kind of wonky. So that's why I'm just going to continue dodging. Again, it's fun to dodge this pattern, and I don't want to disrupt it. Okay, so I have this silly metagame that I play, in which I'll try to end the round in a way so that when Reimu does her victory pose, the background is as aesthetically pleasing as possible. So here, she's centered right in the middle of the bookshelves. I don't know. I make my own fun. So at the beginning of the stage, I'm already shooting left because I know that's where the books will spawn. And honestly, that's the extent of my routing. I don't practice and memorize enemy placement. I just play a game so much that I'll know how to deal with the enemies. And everything in this game is pretty manageable, so even if you don't memorize enemy placement, you should be fine. I mean, I got a 1cc in Lunatic without memorizing enemy placement. And you know, nothing against routing, it's not my thing. This might be an incoming hot take, but I am a casual player and not a super player, so here we go. I prefer reaction over routing, and I think I know why. My favorite game of all time is Tetris, and that's all reaction. And I think it bleeds over and influences my preferences in other genres too. For example, rhythm games. I don't like memorization in that either. I prefer sight reading. You can look up what that is later. And again, back to Shmups. I prefer reaction over routing. I don't like memorizing enemy placement. I like things to feel more dynamic. And you just learn to deal with enemies the more you play the game, in my opinion. One of these days, I really should try this fight in practice mode. I really want to try and dodge these bullets, especially this pattern. It looks pretty crazy, but I'm pretty sure it opens up as it fans out. It has to. For the second phase, the boss is going to come towards you, and then back away, and then shoot this purple barrage. You'll definitely want to be hanging out in the middle of the screen, because if you're too far to the left, and she follows you, she can corner you, and then you won't have as much time to react to that purple barrage. The funny thing about the stun mechanic, it doesn't turn the game into some kind of easy mode, as people might think. As much as I've played it, now it feels more like a placebo, because you're always under the threat of getting hit by a bullet, and then there's a chain reaction that sends you off into another bullet. Okay, this is the only phase in the game in which I bomb spam and burst spam. In practice, I can dodge through that no problem, but in an actual run, I don't know, just to play it safe, I just bomb spam and burst spam. Besides, like I said, I don't really use it. I don't really use bombs in this game, so might as well save it for this encounter. Yeah, so the strategy for this phase, for me anyway, is to bomb and burst until you have Danmaku Rush meter, and then point blank the boss. This final phase is really fun. There are these green bullets that you have to work your way through, and it's actually a little stressful because there are actually two green bullets stacked up on top of each other, as you can see them separate. But anyway, before they're separated, since there are two bullets stacked up on top of each other, that's an instant kill if you run into them. Because it'll stun you and then you'll take damage simultaneously, so you're just dead. And these light blue or white bullets really aren't a problem until they overlap with the green bullets. So just survive long enough until you have your Danmaku Rush charged, and then burst if necessary, but it's not too bad. Okay, this next boss, Sakuya, I just wanted to mention there's a game called Toho Luna Nights. It's a really cool Metroidvania. Obviously, it features Toho characters. You play as Sakuya. She's the protagonist in that. Anyway, that was made by Team Ladybug, who also made Drainus, a shmup. So, if you play Drainus, you know the quality of games that Team Ladybug makes. Definitely give Toho Luna Nights a chance. It's really cool. I think this is the first time we see the bats in this game. They can be kind of problematic if you don't deal with them in the right way. You can lead the bullets away so that it doesn't overwhelm you. But yeah, if you're not careful, it's easy to just get caught in those waves of bullets. And you can, and probably should, burst out of it. By the way, extra bombs and extends come from bosses and mid-bosses. Oh, I died. That was a waste. Anyway, this has to be my favorite backdrop in the game. I just love the clock tower, the moon, the sky, and I probably say this about every other boss, but I love Sakuya's bullet patterns and the colors. Oh, and this spot that I choose to charge the Danmaku rush in, if I'm sticking out too much to the right, she'll run into me right there. So, yeah, this spot is just perfect. Sakuya's second phase is my least favorite phase in the game. I don't know why, but she seems extra tanky during this phase. It just takes forever. Or maybe I'm just so focused on dodging that I'm not shooting her as much as I should. I don't know. Before I could consistently 1cc the game at hard or lunatic, Sakuya was always the run killer. And it felt like if I can get past Sakuya, I can get to the end. So this is something you do not want to do. You don't want to waste time by charging your Danmaku rush here. I know better, but yeah, your time is better spent chipping away at her HP. So this is the only phase... oh my god, I missed the rush. This is the only phase in which I have a danger of getting a timeout. If you look at the lower right-hand corner, there's time ticking away. And I'm pretty sure I'm panicking right now because I missed the rush and it's coming down to the wire. It's like 3, 2, 1, and I barely got that. Okay, so why was I freaking out? Because if you get a timeout during a spell card phase, the game will not let you progress to the last level. You'll get some sort of notification that basically says something like, no, try again. Obviously not in those words. By the way, I love these patterns that make you move all around the screen. For the final phase, there'll be these kunai that spawn around you. I like using the free hit from the stun right there to get out of that circle. And when you're ready to do your Danmaku rush, charge right in the middle of those kunai. Yeah, just keep in mind not to be in the center of the clock because that's where her original position is and she'll run into you. And you definitely need this second round of kunai to absorb. And that's Sakuya. Yay! So before I found that optimal spot to do your Danmaku rush charge in, well, I think it's optimal, I used to rely on burst spam to get out of those kunai patterns. But actually, we didn't go over this, but you shouldn't be burst spamming too much because every time you burst, you're expending some of your power. Your power is in the lower left corner of the screen. It says 200. That's the max. And actually, we haven't gone over this either because I kind of just don't think about it anymore. But do you see those things circling around Reimu? That those are universally called options within Shmups. And basically, you get an option at power levels, I believe it's 50, 100, and 150. So if you're spamming burst, I forgot how much you expend from each burst, but if you're spamming burst, you're continually decreasing your power level. And Just as you earn those options at thresholds 50, 100, and 150, if you go below those thresholds, you can lose your options. Yeah, so burst isn't as abusable as you might think. Now would be a good a time as any to talk about the extra lives. So you can only have a maximum of 4 extra lives in stock, and that's indicated by the small icons at the lower left by Reimu's picture. So if you have a maximum of 4 extra lives in stock, and you pick up an extend, it doesn't add to that, just nothing happens. I'm not sure why 4 is the maximum, that's just how the game is. So here we are at the penultimate boss. We are at the second to the last boss. We are almost there. So I'm sure you can kind of see this. I'm sort of messing up the pattern, but this bullet pattern makes an eyeball. It's kind of the motif for this boss. If you ever wanted to dodge this, the pattern opens up at the outer edges of the screen. For the second phase, it's not as crazy as it looks. As long as you focus on getting in between the yellow bullets, you should be fine. And actually don't do your Danmaku Rush charge here, because the most optimal thing to do would be to circle around the boss and grab those red bullets as they spawn, because there's a ton of them. And you can get this down in 1 Danmaku Rush cycle instead of 2 like I did. But I think I was playing it safer because I was so close to the 1cc. For phase 3, I sort of have a strategy for it, but I concentrate on the yellow bullets and these lanes that they make. So I just make sure that I'm in the middle of one of those lanes. And yeah, I'll get clipped with something once in a while, but it's fine. And once you have Danmaku Rush, focus on absorbing the yellow bullets again, because there are a lot of them when they spawn, and you can kind of intercept them as they spawn. Guess what? This is one of my favorite phases in the game. Those ring-shaped bullets are somewhat aimed, so I like to stay in the middle of the screen first, and then once they start moving, I'll head down to the lower half of the screen to weave myself through the star-shaped bullets. And I actually didn't optimize the Danmaku Rush here. What I should have done when I had the full charge is charge point blank, because there's a ton of bullets there and you'll absorb those 2 rows of stars that are twisting. Though we've seen this pattern before with the first boss, this version switches directions more frequently. Oh, and in the shmup community, some people call this the washing machine. By the way, when you see the break chance around the boss, that's telling you that you've absorbed enough bullets to take the boss down. I think I mentioned before that I don't think the developers meant the Danmaku Rush to be this powerful, and I think this fight is kind of proof. So you don't see me do this, but if you have the rush and you just float there and charge, and you're hoping that you're going to absorb all of these red projectiles, you can't, because once you start charging, this boss stops shooting at you. I don't know, I have to believe that was the devs thinking, whoa, wait a minute. Like, we need to stop shooting or we're just giving them more ammo for the Danmaku Rush. I don't know, it's just something to think about. It's the final stage now. We've got bats, and bullets, and more bats, and more bullets. There's nothing much to say about this one. I think I could have gotten a no-death run. Have I died yet? Oh, I died to the bats in stage... I'm tired. So here's something that I wish we would see in more games. At the upper right hand corner, you'll see that there's an option for me to sucker punch the final boss. So what happens is, if I press X, it would have interrupted the dialogue with a Danmaku rush. And the thing about this is, there's an earlier boss which we didn't encounter in this run, and if you sucker punch her, you skip her first phase. So when you see this option to sucker punch the final boss, you're thinking, okay, so I get a free first phase, right? But then Remilia blocks it, and you just end up wasting your Danmaku rush. Oh, and look here, I actually found a safe spot in the game. How cool is this? By the way, when I say that I find something, or like, oh, this is my strategy, it's because I don't look up any guides, I don't look up anyone else's playthroughs, I just like figuring things out on my own. It's just more rewarding, it's more fun. I'm pretty sure I mentioned that I find Remilia much easier than Sakuya. Now, just look at this phase. You're going to get in these lanes and then stay in place. Get in the lane, stay in place. Before I stumbled across this in practice mode, I got through this phase with bombs and bursts. Now, this phase is pretty unique. The boss will continually fly across the screen. You have these brief windows in which you can do damage. And once you have your Danmaku rush, definitely scoop up as many bullets as you can before rushing into her. I always used to time out on this phase, I'm not sure why. But back then I used to always rely on burst during this phase, so I probably was very underpowered and didn't do as much damage. So yeah, that's another reason not to spam burst. And I was probably not as efficient with my Danmaku rushes either. So because we're going for a complete break, this is the final phase in which we can use our bombs. Because for the spell card phases, you're not allowed to use bombs or die, or you won't capture the spell card. I really should have used those last two bombs, but whatever. Here it is, the final phase. We have 4 extra lives. We have 2 bombs, which we won't use because we're going for a complete break. And power level 200, so I'm pretty sure we could just burst spam our way to victory. So this is one of those phases in which if you start charging your Danmaku rush, the boss will stop spawning those bullets. I really think that's the devs realizing, hey, we can't keep feeding them ammo for the Danmaku rush. And there it is. Complete break, all bosses, 1cc Lunatic Mode in the books. Can we just pretend that I played this live at Shmup Slam 7? Or like consider it as an honorary run or something? It was so good. Actually, this could have been a no-death run if it wasn't for that stupid bat in stage whatever. Man. Thank you for watching. This has been Brian of FaceTime Police. This is Rambo. Please like, comment, and subscribe. I bid you adieu and play more shmups.